That way I can see what happens.
All right. So live podcast. Tune in on.
Find you fast. Let's see. Somebody like you.
Okay, so going live. Um. All right. Let's see here. We are starting the podcast now. I will edit this before we actually go. Notifying everybody.
Will I be on the live? Because
Abs-
you don't, do you share this? How do you share that onto TikTok?
Hold on 1 second. I'll be sharing it to my YouTube and stuff like that. I'm just going live. I'm just doing a live.
Got it.
Right
I
now.
see your face. Got it.
Perfect. All right. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Somebody Like You podcast, where I am so lucky to have Kara Hughes on here. She's known as Kara Relentless Spirit, the founder of Relentless Love Foundation. She is a cancer survivor, obviously a foundation founder, an evidential medium, and she has so much insight, perspective, and so much more to offer. I was fortunate enough to catch up with her for about 15 minutes before we jumped on this podcast, and I am so excited to have you on, Kara. So I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to kind of let us know a little bit about yourself, what people might not know about you, and then we'll get the convo started.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, thanks so much for having me on. So I'm Kara, Relentless Spirit. I started a foundation called Relentless Love Cancer Foundation almost 10 years ago, I believe. And the reason and the provocation for that was I was diagnosed with brain cancer, but not just brain cancer, an invisible form of follicular non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that does not show up in the blood, but is a blood cancer and showed up in my brain, which is completely rare and unique. And so from there, being a single mom, I started battling and just really went through it. And so, took on the nickname of Wonder Woman while me and my 3-year-old at the time started battling. And we battled. So from that, I started seeing that there was just really a need to support other people while I was going through my own, because when we're in service, we tend to be more present. And so I started Relentless Love, and then had a really crazy journey, multiple other, health triumphs, heart attack, stroke, you name it. And now at 11 years, I've come out on top and amazing, in remission, and just doing great. And with that, my whole life, I've been a medium, evidential medium, along with now trance mediumship, which means embodiment, in case you don't know what that is. And so I couple that with mental health and well-being to help deliver messages of love and faith to those who not only are battling cancer themselves, their loved ones. I transmute messages from beyond, but I also help you facilitate conversations with your higher self. So it's just been a really great voyage, and here we are. So, yeah.
This is so cool. Everything happens for a reason, as we talked about. I have working through some cancer in my family, and you reached out and saw either a TikTok video or whatever it might be, and you said, "Hey, we should chat." And in this world of nothing is a coincidence, I was like, absolutely. I would love not only to chat with you because I think it will help me, but there's so many people out there that are going to be inspired by your story. So I have to ask, at what point were you an evidential medium or doing mediumship before your diagnosis?
Yeah. So, early on in my life, I was born hard of hearing, which is typically a sign of clairvoyancy. And so I spoke sign language until I was almost 5. And so from the jump, I always was in tune. Everyone always says, did you know when you were a kid, did you see spirits? And I don't see spirits. I have a very clear line of what I'll allow to come through. But my whole life, I've been very in tune, very, very in tune with people. And then in my early 20s is when I started actually doing readings, and I worked as a behavior modification specialist. So I started putting that together and seeing how things came through. And then in my 30s, actually on my 35th birthday, I was diagnosed. I was given that beautiful diagnosis because I see it as a gift, not as, a tragedy. And then, just kept fighting after that.
That is incredible, especially because you lived such a full life up until then, right? And then at 35, it's probably that feeling of, I'm so young.
Yeah, especially for the type of cancer I got. Typically, blood cancers come in around 60. So I guess you can say I'm an old soul, huh?
You're an old soul, experienced soul, a well-traveled soul, it sounds like. So through all of that, obviously your connection with spirits and soul and all of those type of things, your mental health is now taking, we'll say, a detour, right? I'm sure you're going through a lot to process at that time. How did you maintain your mental health and your strength through all of that? Was it faith? Was it having to be learned along the way? Or were you just always a badass?
Throughout my entire life, I've always been that person that people come to for that positive inspiration because I am not reactive, I'm proactive. So when things are dealt to me, I try not to immediately react. I work to see what's on the table and then make steps to take forward action. And I'm constantly looking for what the gift is because early on in my life, I learned that nothing is a tragedy. Everything has a lesson. Is it a lesson or a blessing? I think they're one and the same, right?
Yep.
So really, I just have always been that positive person. And some will say, oh, that's a mask. But truly, when you live your life from day one, learning how to champion and overcome, what people might call struggles or traumas, then you have that toolbox that you're just engaging all the way across. And so from a very, very young age, that's what I did. I just used my toolbox and I constantly add to my toolbox. I'm constantly reading, learning, taking classes, doing workshops, speaking to the specialists and learning how I can best enhance myself to best help others and myself.
Absolutely, because I think right there is a big one when you say helping yourself as well, because it's not like your journey is over with all of that, right? You're continuing to learn, to find ways to help others, like you said, but you're helping yourself because the book's not closed, right? I'm sure you're learning more and more about yourself along the way. And when I find, at least in my experience, when I find out more about myself, I want to turn that around and give that back to other people. Be like, hey, like this is possible, or these are insights or a perspective. So through all of that, this is going to be a heavier question. What would you say the most powerful perspective you gained through all of now, like you said, you listed a stroke, cancer, a bunch of like even hard of hearing at a young age. What is the thing you probably took away most that has shaped you to become who you are right now?
Well, while I was going through everything, I had a small human watching me saying, that's my superhero. Oh, I'm going to get emotional. My daughter, she's tremendous. And knowing that I had those little eyes set on me, not only set on me, but depending on me, has been my motivation and my love and the wind beneath my wings. She is tremendous. And just hearing how it shaped her life, how she champions things in her life, how she rises above, and how when things are dealt to her plate, she breaks them down and creates her own path to be able to navigate and step into her own world. So it's I think that she's been the focus of what I do. With Relentless Love, I started a lot of programs because of my daughter, where, we were doing cell phones for single moms, juicers for the families. We were doing laptops for the families to make sure the children were able to have access to remote learning, because this was before COVID, when not everyone had a laptop, and the children would sometimes have to, go to hospitals and hang out with their parents. And so they had to have access. I started an art program for prosthetics to make sure that the children were really enjoying. Like one little guy, he had a helmet, found amazing artists in the community that came together and decided to paint prosthetics, whether it be arm prosthetics, helmets, wheelchairs, you name it, just really bringing the joy. And then, of course, being a single parent with cancer, we know that budgets are very, very tight. So I started doing the holiday and the birthday sponsorships where families could come and give us their wish list, and then we would curtail it and call on the community to deliver all of the lists to make sure that the children found mysticism and love and hope and inspiration while they were challenging, walking through their own journey while the parents are fighting. Because just some days you just maybe can't get up. Some days you just need to stay down and cuddle with those little munchkins. And so just always trying to find a way to infuse the hope and the love and the inspiration. And then from there, bringing together groups where the kids can get together and say, hey, I'm going through that. Hey, mommy and daddy are going through that, and I'm not alone. And then those children can talk and have their little mental health sessions, which they don't understand are actually mental health sessions and art sessions, to really, further their own health and catharticism. Yeah.
That, when you started getting emotional, I started getting chills, right? It was one of those things, because sometimes when we jump on podcasts, we want to put on our brave face. We want to kind of say the politically correct answer, or the answer that we feel like should be said. And I got like this vision, right? I don't ever claim to be an evidential medium or a country, but like I do feel like I receive things, right? And the first thing that, like, when I watched you go through that, it was like the mini you, right? Your kid was like yourself looking at you as a grown up, and like being there for whatever we in the spiritual community called inner child, whatever people may talk about it, but having those eyes on you, whether that be physical eyes or your inner child or anything like that, brings out such strength, because you don't realize how much strength you have until you have to reach in that bag. And she was she sounds like she was your purpose, with like that. She was the depth to your bag of how deep you can actually reach to get.
Yeah. I questioned through all of my, sitting for 2.5 years in the chemo chair. You have a lot of time to think. And I questioned how my journey would have turned out if I didn't have that munchkin peering up at me, or peering at me from the back seat while we were, heading to 7, 8, 10 doctor's appointments a week. So I think that my journey would have been very different, especially having, a tumor in my brain that was as big as a softball. I mean, it was gigantic. But now I'm a robot. And when we started the podcast, you mentioned, superhero status. And that's what we really jumped off on. We all got capes. My whole cancer crew, we all got superhero capes, and everyone wore them. And, we all chose who our, personas were. And of course, I'm Wonder Woman. And she's Supergirl, my little munchkin. And everyone just chose this icon so that way they could show up, and how they, feed each other in their superhero kingdom. You just gotta be authentic, and you just really have to show up and say, what if, and really look at it from every perspective. Life isn't about, seeing where the darkness can come in. It's seeing where the light can be infused. And when you have a diagnosis like cancer, or like any other health triumph, there's an emotional reason why that manifested, and B, there's a physical reason why it manifested. And to really just be open with yourself to questioning that, trying on why that manifested for you, and then how it's going to filter out to every single person that's in your life, because all of your care team, all of your loved ones were all chosen to take that ride with you, specifically and divinely. Nothing is by chance. So everyone has a part to play. And we can't look at someone and say, wow, you're not dealing with this well. As the person with the cancer, I can't look at someone and fault them for how they might show up, right? We have to really support them, because they're having their own emotions coming up for what I'm dealing with through, and then they're dealing with it through me. It's just a trip. Mental health is a trip. And when we get outside of ourselves and realize that it's all a network, I think that's when we really start to grow.
You're spot on. And that's when you talk about like it manifested, right? The things, and there's this accountability I like to talk about in mental health. Now, the things you thought, the things you're doing, the food you eat, they're having an impact on your mental health, right?
Huge.
We have a comment. It's so important to have a support system. I have a folder of pictures I call my squad that when I sit in the chemo chair, it gives me the inspiration I need to keep moving forward. That is my mama.
Yeah.
She's got tears in my eyes. Now, you're not the only one tearing up on the podcast. But she's mentioned that. She's mentioned how important it is because, like you said, oftentimes you don't know how long this is going on for, right? So I know one thing she brings out of me is the today. I'm just going to win, not even today. I'm going to win right now.
Yeah.
Just this moment. I'm going to make the best out of it. And her mindset has been the thing that has, not even before all of this, has shaped me to be like, obviously we all go through our kid phase of like, I know better than you. I know better than you. Then the older I get, the more I realize how much I take away from her and my parents in general, my family. And like what you're talking about, the same thing. It's kind of like you're in my life and play a role in my life for a reason. The accountability of this is, am I willing to learn? Am I willing to drop the ego? Am I willing to stop thinking I know best? And am I able to tune into that frequency, tune into that radio station of I release all control. I'm ready to tune into the best version of myself, the highest version of myself. And that is the connection of mental health and spirituality, right? Whether you're on a religious journey, a spiritual journey, a mental health journey, tapping into your best self is dropping the show, right? And just tuning in and being
surrender. Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah. Learning to surrender. I always tell everyone, when you feel like you're surrendering, take your face, relax it as much as you can, and then realize how much you're not surrendering. And then use that as an emotional understanding. And then do it again. And then let it shake throughout your body and realize how much you're holding and withholding and resisting. And then look at it from an emotional standpoint and say, okay, what else can I give up here? Because really, there's nothing you have to do. Everything will be perfect because everything is divine, right? And people will say, oh, but I'm going to die. Well, we're all going to die. We are all going to die. And that's what fact is. So maybe that's the point where you start, and you start to learn that you need to get a little comfortable with that idea. And then you work backwards to where mom is, right? In the chemo chair saying, I'm just going to be present in this moment. I'm just going to be present in this moment. And that's what I can do. And that's who I am. And that's where I'm going to be. And then you need to show up, not you, but the proverbial they, you need to show up and just say, hey, are you okay? Because a lot of people say, hey, I don't know how to show up for people in the chemo chair. I don't know what to do, so I just don't. And all you have to do is say, hey, are you okay? And then from there, your own emotional journey is going to start, because you're going to start surrendering and you're going to start saying, hey, I was afraid to show up, but I did. And here we go.
And because we're all learning lessons, whether it be through the chemo chair, whether it be through whatever it is. But I even said this to my dad. I was like, this is a lesson for you, because he's a problem solver. Anything that's put in front of him, he's going to, I'm talking, work until his fingers bleed to figure it out. And he confided in me and was like, I don't know how, like, there's just something, I can't fix this. And like, to me, it's like turning around and be like, this is your lesson. Like learning how to be there for somebody without the physical labor, learning how to emotionally be there for someone. And he's a comedic guy. He's a funny guy, right? So it's like, you need to bring that to the table. You need to crack the jokes. You need to be authentically you. And sometimes you need to be there just to be like, hey, this sucks, but I'm here. How are you?
Exactly.
Right? It's all playing it's one, I think, settling into our role and understanding we don't have to be something we're not. Like my sister's the nurse. So when it comes, she reads the charts, she reads the stuff, and she's in Colorado. So she's learning from a distance how to be a distance nurse, how to go through her mom working through this and stuff. And so she's the medical side. I'm the mental health side, where like, that's me. I'm the, how are you? How's your mindset? What are we feeling? What are we thinking? What set of lenses are we looking through today? Because all lenses are okay. But remember, you get to dictate where that direction goes by how you feel, how you think, and how you move.
Wow, you've definitely got a fun squad over there, because you've got the I'll use the word control, right? Or fix it man, right? We're our repair man. And that right there is one in itself, exactly where he's going to learn how to relax and just be that partner, be that emotional partner, right? And then
if he chooses to be,
it sounds like
it
he
has
does.
to. I think he's working through it, because I
Yeah.
think that's something. If he's by chance listening, it's when it's like that has to be a choice, and you have to like know it's hard as hell to do something you're not comfortable doing. But it's one of those things. It all is like I talk about setting intentions. It's like I have to set the intention to be and learn this lesson to be this person or to be
Yeah.
this version of me.
And your dad being the one who's the comedic relief, that's great, because he can call on that when he needs to, but he'll also learn how he doesn't always have to show up as Mr. Fix It, the funny guy, right? That's one of my facades, is to always try and come with the jokes, right? Sarcastic jokes. But I learned through all of these trials and tribulations that it's okay just to show up and be like, look, today's not my best day. Like, I don't have to be funny. I don't have to be beautiful. I just have to be here. And yeah, so then your sister, who is the medical, right? She nurses, right? You said she's a nurse.
Yep.
They are the true heroes. They truly are. They truly are. But for her to be in such a place of, this is her mommy, right? This is her mommy, and she can't save this, but she can show mom what a great job mom did in raising her. And now mom has someone she can depend on, because she has a little mini doctor that she created. And so then your sister also has to, remember to show up and take off her Superman face, because nurses are always frontline. And so that's going to really hit her in her core. And then you, as her little boy, and learning to show up and be that vulnerable little self after you've learned to put on so many shielded armors, right? And to know that it's not a death wish to get diagnosed as someone who's battling cancer, and it can go any which way, right? I mean, I went from the worst diagnosis you can get to the top of the top, right? So if anything, may I give your mom and your entire team love and support she's in the perfect stage to have had it found, and she has a wonderful team to help her kill it. And then with being proactive, she can keep it away for the rest of her life. She does not have to worry and be fearful that it's going to come back. That was the first thing that my neurosurgeon said was, I wasn't even awake yet. And he said, oh, it's a massive mass. And to my mom. And he said, we can't get it out. And we don't know where it's going to go from here. And then he said that it would probably come back. And then after I met my oncologist, and he did his wondrous, amazing things, and then I took on the naturopathy, they have now said, oh, you're cool. You're going to be great. You're going to have smooth sailing, right? And then it's what you believe to what you achieve. Your cells get in line, right? So whatever you believe, your cells will listen, and they'll give you exactly what you're believing. So as long as she's believing that she's achieving, she's going to achieve it. And that achievement doesn't mean always winning. Achievement is achievement. But where she wants to go, her body will take her there. So
are you a Dr. Joe Dispenza fan?
I'm just starting to listen to him. He's kind of wonderful. I actually kind of found out about him through TikTok, actually, in the last year. So, but I haven't gotten too much into him. Okay. I'm more of an alchemist type of person, and that's where I jump off is alchemy. And then now Joe Dispenza has been more like in the past, probably just a couple of weeks, he's popping up on my feed. So I'm starting to hear him. Wayne Dyer was my guru through everything. Wayne Dyer, it was an amazing. He started out as a psychologist, and then said, you know what, Fooey, on this, I don't want to be a prescriber. I want to go into holistics. And then he really just changed the planet for people who were within his earshot. He too ended up with cancer, beat it. And then unfortunately it did come back, and he's no longer with us. But that man right there, if you guys want someone who's amazing, check out Wayne Dyer. Amazing.
That's awesome. So Wayne Dyer, to everyone listening, and I asked about Dr. Joe Dispenza because he too, within the past couple years for me, has kind of popped in as I was kind of discovering and uncovering more of consciousness. And you talked about cells listening, right? And so if you ever get the chance, or if you ever have the interest to listen, I listen to audiobooks, but if you want to read the book, it's called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he talks about people literally healing cancer, healing all types of, well, for lack of better word, like dangerous diseases.
Yeah.
And literally by the power of thought, mind, meditation, and how he did it, and it was just countless cases. And like, because it was like beyond this idea of, oh, that's just one. Oh, that's just one. And so like once he was a big player in kind of the connection of mind, body, spirit, consciousness, all of these things. Him and Nikola Tesla are like my two like gurus for that, I'll say. And once I started doing that, the power of thought mixed with the power of feeling, emotion, and all of that is what creates your reality. It creates the things you see, the things you feel, and the things you do.
100%. So I was on a plane, read the 4 Agreements when it first came out. I think it was 2007. Don Miguel Ruiz, amazing. Yep. If you haven't read it, it's only 4 agreements to the world. It's what is it? It's actually on my desktop. I keep it as my screensaver. What is it? Be impeccable with your word. Take nothing personally. Do not make assumptions. There you go. And always do your best. And anytime you're up against something, all you have to do is say, am I doing my best? What am I taking personally? Have I been the most authentic person I can be with this thing that's, spitting syllables? And am I expecting something, right? And if you're expecting something, you got to stop it, because when you have an expectation, the universe says it can show up any way I want it to show up. You got to be careful with what you're manifesting. And so every single time, 24 surgeries, 25 surgeries, and every single diagnosis I get, I say, okay, so how are we going to show up, cells? And I tell the cells, hey, we better get in line, because this is where we're going. We're not going that way. And anytime someone comes to me for coaching and challenging their own spirit, I always say, have you asked your cells to get in line? And they laugh. They always laugh. And I'm like, listen, they listen to you. And if you say, oh, we're so sick, they're going to say, okay, we're sick. And they're going to agree with you. And then you're going to get worse. But if you say, hey, we're doing really good, we might need to rest, but we're doing really good, they're going to be like, hey, we're doing amazing. And they're going to.
We just need a little bit of rest.
We just need a little rest. And we all do, and what is real rest? And that could be a whole nother podcast, is what is rest? Yeah.
That's so powerful, because I think that's what people don't understand is what you think is what you become. Mm-hmm. And I saw your eyes kind of light up, or you smile when I said Nikola Tesla. Mm-hmm. So I love Nikola Tesla.
I love Tesla
so much. Everything in this world is energy, frequency, and vibrations. Everything. And that's what thoughts are. They're a frequency. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is take that energy into a frequency and create it into a vibration. And where do you want to vibrate? So that's why I always use the radio station analogy. It's like, what radio station are you tuning into? Are you tuning into the heavy metal, the death metal, all this stuff? You're going to operate on that frequency. But if you're tuning in, which is cool if that's where you're looking to go to the gym or do those kind of things, but more in like more practical to life is, are you truly wanting to heal and feel good and feel joy and feel happiness and feel these things? You need to actively tune into that radio station and raise the vibrations. And I know that it's gotten kind of like hippie terminology as of late, but according to quantum physics, quantum mechanics, all of like scientific stuff, this is all real. And it's more like understanding, like, the more you think, the more you believe is the key, the more you're going to become. What you believe is what you become.
Yeah.
So if you believe the world's going to hell, the world's going to hell, because that's what you're looking for.
Well, blind split theory is, when they're putting ions or electrons behind paper, basically, and what you do not see does not react, but when you focus on it, it changes, right? Anything is mutatable, and it's so true. Just the other day, I'm usually pretty amazingly positive, goosebumps all over, super, joyous. And if I don't, that's what I focus on to get myself back into that higher vibe. And the other day I was just like, I'm feeling kind of today. So I went out, we went to breakfast. I'm like, still not feeling great. I love breakfast, but someone else made it for me. Why aren't I feeling amazing? And then the universe said, let's test you. And then all of a sudden a woman came up behind me in the car and just started laying on the horn. So I looked in my mirror and I was like, what's wrong? And she probably thought I was getting mouthy. Well, she started screaming out her window, holy moly. And I'm like, there's a bus in front of me. I'm just stuck behind the bus. And then I said, oh, universe, you're testing me to see where I'm going to take this. I could choose to go in that negative path, but I'm going to choose to be a higher vibe. And I just waved and said, hey, no problem. And then all of a sudden, my whole disposition for the rest of the day elevated. And of course, when I got home, I had to go walk in the grass and, just take a little minute to let whatever that was out, because there was someone screaming audibly in traffic. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen where we're at. So it's definitely, energy, and you can choose to change it. And that's a conversation that we have every single day. People call and say, well, I'm feeling this way. And then we have to check in with ourselves, become present, and then figure out where those molecules are shaking at, right?
Absolutely. So what would you say, whether it be in your coaching, in your life, or whatever comes up, what would you say is some of your best practices to discharge or to ground or to change those vibes or anything like that, for anybody listening who might be like, I would love to do that, but where's that secret sauce? How do we do that?
Yeah, so you really just getting present. Right now I'm sitting at my desk. I have huge monitors. I have a phone, I have a laptop, I have lights. It's just a lot. And so I sit in here all day and I work. And what I learn from myself is as soon as I start to change, I feel myself tensing. I feel myself moving my posture and sitting. I've learned to say, hey, get up and walk away. Just get up and walk away. And so whether that be getting up and walking away from your family for a moment, walking away from a team for a moment, walking away from yourself for a moment, and changing your scenario, changing your situation. I think that's the biggest tool and the biggest thing, that if we can all learn to do that and bring ourselves back to being present, checking in with the body while we are walking away, right? Take a deep breath, use all your senses, listen to what's going on around you, look around, and just really get present in your body. It is a present to yourself, right? It's a gift. And that's how we start to raise our vibe. And then you say, wait a minute, okay, I don't like how that was feeling. Where do I want to feel? I want to feel like this. And so then we'll use my daughter, right? Through chemo. That was the picture that I used. And I had everywhere. I had pictures of her and I, and a little strip of paper underneath. So whenever I would look around, I would see it, and it said attitude of gratitude. And it's not toxic gratitude. It's literally looking at that and saying, that's the simplest, most joyful thing in my life. And so just giving yourself those cues to say, this is the vibe, and give yourself reminders. This is the vibe. This is the quan. This is where I need to be. And just always bringing yourself back to that. Just taking that time for you. I think that this world keeps us so busy. We're so running. We have so many deadlines, this, and we forget that we're humans. We're actually spirits having a human, experience. And so we have to make this human suit. Remember that it's just human. It's just human.
And this human suit experiences, that's part of the journey, right? We experience all ranges of emotions. Mm-hmm. So to say grief, sadness, and stuff is worse than happiness and joy, it may feel that way, but that's not true. How miraculous that we get to experience emotions, right? Like not everything can experience emotions. So you had a lot of really cool stuff. And I want to ask, do you have a practice or routine, or I don't want to say like a rigid routine or anything, but like what's your practice of connecting? So like, especially whether it be through your treatment or just maybe now, whether that's meditating, getting out in the grass, breath work, or anything like that. Do you have a routine that you do?
Yeah, every single morning, as soon as I get up, before I hit the lights, grab the phone, do whatever, feet hit ground, I give thanks. Thank you so much for letting me wake up today. Thank you for the air in my lungs. Thank you for the beautiful day that's about to come. And then I have my handy dandy notebook, which I have right here, carry it everywhere, but it sits right beside my bed. And I immediately write down what I'm truly grateful for. It was what I was grateful for yesterday and what I'm going to be grateful for to come, but also what is now. And then from there, I usually spend a little time asking for my guides and my loved ones and ancestors and the God, the synonymous they, right, to come through and just give me messages of hope and inspiration for the day. Then I get up and get the coffee because listen, you have to have the coffee. It's coffee. It's coffee for me, and a lot of herbal teas, but it's always coffee. And then I go outside and take some breaths, get some sun in my eyes, right? Because that connectivity, that vitamin D, it's crucial. And then I jump into my day. And then by the end of the day, I'm taking time with myself. I am reflecting on my day. I'm taking apart what was presented to me, and I'm looking at how I approached it, how I could have approached it, and how I will approach it in the future. And then I go back to my journal. I journal about my day. Then I meditate. And then before I go to sleep every single night, I give thanks for the day. And anything, before I put anything into my body, I give thanks because I'm more cognizant that way of what I'm putting into my body, right? Like water, food, and I make sure that it's of the highest and best good. And you ask about the routine, juicing every single day. And if I can't juice, making sure that I'm eating tons of fresh fruits and vegetables because those are really going to be the catalyst of what keeps us healthy, right? So feeding those cells. Yeah. And then I always check in with my munchkin and I always say, what was the best part of your day and why? And I want her to focus first on what the best part was. And then we're going to break apart what the worst part was. And then we're going to come through thankful force. And so every single day we ask highs, lows, and thankful force. And everyone, if you come to our table, you have to answer it. So that's some of the stuff that we do every day.
I love everything about that. And I want for anyone listening to this who says like, I don't feel good, or I've been going through a rough patch and stuff like that. And, oh, this might be hard work. Listen to how much work that goes into this, right? And in the beginning of all this, it is work because you're creating a new routine. You're creating a new conscious effort to become thankful for the very little things that we've taken for granted our whole life without ever knowing it. Like you said, I'm big on setting intentions. Like, so even if I'm going to the bathroom to brush my teeth, I would say, like, all right, I'm setting the intention to go to the bathroom to brush my teeth, to give health to my gums, to help with my mental health. So I'm purposefully brushing my teeth now instead of just being like mindlessly brushing and being like, okay, I'll say affirmations in my mind as I'm brushing my teeth. I'll be like, it is my right to experience love, gratitude, all of these things from the highest source, the highest good, all of these things. And when you become intentional, like what you're saying, like you're asking these questions, doing these things, and taking practice and all of this stuff with an intention, right? It's not just like doing it and being like going to therapy and lying. I feel like some people go to therapy and like put on that mask and be like, all right, I have to put on my therapy mask. Like, no, like you're showing up as your authentic self. You're showing up vulnerable, being grateful, being thankful. And that takes so much practice to get to a place of, I'm just going to call it being, because that's all really like to a place of thought. I don't want to say thoughtless being, but just being, because we are thoughts, we are things, but we're the observer, all of this stuff. Right. So your routine or your practices are so important for people to hear because this shit ain't easy.
No, but once it becomes normal practice, then it becomes who you are. And it only takes 15 days to start an actual habit, 30 days to lock it in. And you're not going anywhere. This is the body you got. And we are taught from a very young age to not pay attention to ourselves. I remember I was walking down the beach as a young human. I think I was like 5. I had a pain in my side. And I was like, oh, that hurts. And someone said, don't pay attention to every pain in your body. It'll kill you. And that was impacting. But that did two things. A, it saved my life, because when all the diagnoses started, that played in my head. Don't pay attention to every single pain in your life. They'll kill you. And then also, wait a minute. Am I not supposed to listen to myself? And that's where the universe tells us, don't pay attention to yourself, little child. Pay attention to the world. But when you start to learn about spirituality and healing and catharsism, you realize that the world is inside and you have to pay attention to yourself. So you might as well take that time to do that facial skincare routine every night and paint your nails and drink a hot cup of tea, or just be lazy and give yourself the okayness to be in that, but to start your habit and to do it and pamper yourself, because no one else is going to do it. No one else is. And we have to have that mental health moment, and we have to practice that throughout our days, all day, every day, or else all we're doing is becoming a robot, and you don't want to be a robot.
It's a self-care, healing, self-care. They're very similar. And I think taking care of yourself, and I always say, draw a bath, have a glass of wine, watch an episode of The Office, do whatever it might be that brings you joy and happiness, but don't do it with guilt. Don't be like, oh, I should be doing other things. No, the self-care is the intention and with what you're doing it for. Like waking up, you're intentional with gratitude and grace and all of those things. And that's what you're going to get back, because you're letting your subconscious mind know, this is what I'm creating. This is what I want more of. Which is super cool. I'm really happy you shared that, because I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of the things they're doing now was hard work, and now it's second nature. So like you said, 15 days to change a habit, 30 days to lock it in. It's going to become not hard work anymore. It's going to become your life. It's going to become what you do and who you become. So by whether it be sitting down and writing down goals into a notebook or doing other things like that, design your life, design who you want to be, tap into that best version of yourself. And then I always like to say, be in service of the best version of you. You know what that looks like.
Yep. And when you can't get out of yourself, then go and find other people who are in situations and help them and be in service of them until you can be in service of yourself again. Because always, I always say, every single person I come into contact with is a lesson for myself. And so although I might be speaking with you about what your trials and tribulations are, there is always a loud message that's coming through for me. Raised my daughter in the mean streets of Phoenix, where we would get together with other nonprofit organizations and help feed the homeless. And she got to see hundreds and now thousands of homeless people. And she got to realize that they're not scary. Yes, we all have to be conscious of other humans because other humans do ill things. But in a protected way, there's no reason why children can't go out and assist in helping doing something that we all need to do, i.e. eat. Everyone needs to eat. And so to be of service, right? And then to really say, hey, take that opportunity, have that conversation, help that child realize they don't have to live in fear, that they can help someone else. They are empowering, they're a superhero. And then to turn it around to themselves and say, are you giving yourself the same type of grace, right? Are you showing up for yourself? And then they get it because they see it out here that's not their situation. And then they're like, oh, but it is my situation because I'm not being nice to myself, right? So how do we show up for ourselves? Are we nurturing ourselves? Are we feeding ourselves? Are we taking the rest we need? And always being of service, whether it's internal or external.
I agree. And I think a lot, because it took me a long time I heard it all my life, but it took me a long time to understand it. The I am you and you are me, right? And in script, and I believe in the Bible, it's like, do unto others that you want done unto yourself. And spirituality is the law of duality or the law of one. All of these things are, whatever your belief system is, very constant. How I treat you is how I'm treating myself, not because I'm me and you are you. It's because you are me.
Yeah.
You are a version of me that either needs help or is here to help teach me a lesson or all those things. So there's a version of this version of you is a version of me. Just like in your world, I'm a version of you.
Yeah, we were just talking about that the other day. We were speaking, someone was bringing up addiction and how that looks and how the addict is making choices in their lives. And I said, well, if you really try that on, we all are addicts of whatever it is in our life. And what are we allowing ourselves to be powerless to, as well as what are we taking ownership of, right? And to really see that although that person in front of you, you can judge them all you want. They might have their shortcomings, whatever you want to, however you want to label it and however you want to judge them. It makes you feel good about yourself. Probably not in the long run. But if you say, hey, I see this person over here struggling, and then just hold up the mirror and say, but I too struggle. And then we become more human and we see that there's really nothing to judge in this world. It's literally just a mirror. It's all just a mirror. And when you start to get that, it's a trip, first of all. But to be able to say and humble yourself and say, I'm no better than you, right? No better than you.
And that's tough too, because you're taught to have a line in the sand of where you stand all of your life. My beliefs are better than yours. That's what we're taught. That you have to, I have to think a certain way, surround myself with certain people that all think I'm right or all think the same way as me. And what I love about podcasts or even social media, while there's a lot of negative stuff that can come from things, it's choosing to what to look at it. I love being able to have the opportunity to interact with people and see different perspectives, because I often say I can fundamentally disagree with 99.5% of what someone says, but there's a 0.5% in there that's a lesson for me. Growth doesn't happen all at once. So if there's one thing that someone says and I go, you know what, I never thought of it that way, that does make me think of something that has happened in my life, and I would have changed it if I could. I didn't think about that. Those are massive moments.
You know, I really appreciate when, before any conversation I start with someone, I try and hear spiritually where they're coming from, right? So that way I can understand truly what they're saying. Because if you're not listening, you're not going to hear what they're saying, right? They can speak all they want, but it's not going to actually digest. So if I can see where this person has walked and you know, walk a mile in their shoes, if I can understand where they've come from, I'm going to understand the perspective that they're shooting things at me with. And you said, you know, I might not agree with 95% of what they say. So I don't try and look at what they're saying, because words are so hard, right? It's an emotion that you're trying to relay into a verbal. And if, you know, English isn't your first language, though, then you're not going to translate that any better, right? So if I can really hear what their energy, their emotion, what their spirit is saying, then I'm going to be able to just hear them for where they're standing. And then, you know, let's say they're shooting politics at me. I don't agree, but I can say, I understand you're like that because you came from this family with this scenario and this happened to you. So you're speaking from trauma, and that's okay, because I understand that you mean well, even though you may not understand what you're saying, right? Like you may not, or maybe you think you understand what you're saying, or maybe you're just not translating it well. But to understand where they've come from, I think then we truly can join any conversation, any table, any religion, right? And understand that we're all just hopefully working for the best and highest, and not out for ourselves, I guess.
It's intention, right? It's like I'm with you on that. I don't often hear the words. I pick up on how you're saying it more so, because like if someone can say really disrespectful things but never raise their voice, right? Some like we all, some can have condescending things to say, and they might say it blanketed in positivity, but it's really toxic positivity. Well, I can feel that. I know you're not being genuine. You're trying to manipulate. But you're right. I think when you can feel that from people, when you can feel how people are saying things opposed to what the things are that are being said, that's your intuition, right? People ask like, what is energy? What is tapping into spirits and stuff? It's just like, it's that. It's walking into a room, and mine comes from childhood trauma of being bullied in school. I had to walk into a room in Catholic school, as we talked about before the podcast. I walked in and I just got bullied. I'd get the shit beat out of me. And what I learned after committing to therapy and stuff like that, I got really good at walking into a room and learning how to survive because I would read the energy of a room. I would know what I can say, can't say, what I can do. If someone was like,
That
if there's
the throat thing that we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
right. So like, because I think some people can walk into a room and understand, like maybe a couple just was in a fight. Like maybe a couple were having a bickering match before you got in there. You can pick up on that energy pretty quick. Be like, this feels weird. This is a little awkward. Some people don't pick up on the social cues. So it's like it's like understanding, then trusting your gut and trusting that it's leading you somewhere. For me, it was survival, right? And then I've just kind of worked towards funneling that towards becoming the best version of me. That's like, I don't need that for survival anymore. I need that for tuning in, helping others, and being me. Without that trauma, I wouldn't understand what to do with it. I wouldn't be there. It was all happening for a reason. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be so in tune with energy.
So a fun trip and thought on that is you walk into a room and you read the energy. So to walk into the room and to start to feel where you feel something, if you feel a twinge on your arm, you feel a shiver down your spine, ask yourself why that's coming up, because every single body part signifies an emotion and a spiritual reason, right? So like, we'll look at cancer in a second. So every trauma is stored in your body, right? So every single trauma that your emotions had manifests a physical representation of it. And so that's where cancer comes in. And so, it depends on where your cancer lies as to what you need to triumph and then how you need to heal whatever that past trauma is. Like knees signify stubbornness and unwillingness to change or concede, right? And your right side knee would be your ego side, unwillingness to give. And your left side would be your emotional unwillingness to waver. So let's look at football players and which knee they generally blow out. It's generally the right knee, which would be they're standing on ego and not willing to give leeway, right? So that they blow out that joint. Your feet show groundingness from the past. Your legs are your past. Your body is your present. Your head is your future. And so looking at where cancers show up in the body, you have to ask yourself what you stored, why you've stored it. And so to be able to heal it, you can walk forward with really going back. And then when you go back, you say, that was the first time I had that. You in school getting bullied, right? So you're going to go, nope, that's still not far enough back because it's a cycle, right? Everything is a cycle in life. So then you go back even further, since before you were being bullied at school, something happened at home, right? Or on the neighborhood block, whatever. And you just keep walking yourself backwards until you're like, yep, that's the pinnacle. That's what started it. And then you heal the emotion around that. And how you do that is ho'oponopono, where you thank you. I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. And you tell yourself that because it's not anyone else. It's really you and the trauma that you carried from it, right? And then you start walking yourself forward, coming back to the grace that you do every day, coming back to those practices that you do every day, loving yourself every single day. And all of those traumas that are stored in your body will start to go away, and the cells will say, hey, we are okay. We are okay. And before we started the podcast today, I know I brought up that I said, I feel a lump in your throat. And so for me, that would signify, if I may, that, you're learning to use your voice, but because your voice was taken away from you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, at a young age. Yeah, there was this moment, like I always think, like I was such a goofy kid. Like I would say, like a theater kid, right? I like to perform. I'd go, like my nan, my grandma will always like joke about the time, like she was trying to get me ready for like preschool or something. I was just like running out into the living room screaming, "I'm too sexy for my shirt." and then there was a time like I got to Catholic school and that ended. Like I became like, we gotten big into sports, and it became, you don't show emotion, you don't celebrate when you win, you beat the hell out of yourself when you lose. And like it was I look back, I'm like, such an unhealthy way to be as a kid, but that's just the way it was. But so I wouldn't talk. And then as I kind of went back into public school and stuff like that, I kind of found my voice. I hit a growth spurt. I had more confidence. I was good at sports, and I found a voice, but it was much more of not an authentic voice anymore. It was, I took that trauma, I learned what people want to hear, and I learned how to say it in ways that would make me liked, would make me popular, would make me
And
whatever.
didn't you say you went into marketing?
I did. I went into marketing
Learned how
and
to
I hated
can
it.
things and sell them, because that's what you did, is you literally learned how to can your emotions and sell it to the highest bidder, right? So that
And
makes
I
sense.
hated it.
Transition into marketing. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because I was so bad at, so I went into marketing. I was a better marketer because it was a little bit more for something I believed in, like helping families house someone working with memory or Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, something like that, and providing a good home and place for them. So that was a little bit more authentic, but at the end of the day, it was still sales. When I was an inside sales rep for a payroll company, I absolutely hated it because I was just lying to people's face. I cannot do that. I can't lie to people's willing,
I
especially because
can't.
I'm manipulating people. I'm like, I can't do that. Learning, I was emotionally manipulating other people and myself for a really long time. But now I'm like, no, I'm showing up authentically in who I am. And if we're not aligned right now, that's okay. That's cool. Because I finally am like, I'm about myself now. Like, I'm on a purpose to make a positive ripple in this world, to help people feel comfortable. I always say I'm here to help people help themselves.
That's exactly what I say. I'm simply here to facilitate a conversation with your mind, your body, and your soul, right? And you can't hear this part up here. You can, you just haven't learned how to listen yet. And then this thing you think is separate from this thing, but or you think it's all one, but it's not. It's all separate, right? You got your soul, you got your body, you got your brain, and you got to facilitate that communication. And I'm glad that you, especially through this podcast, you are exploding that ball, and you're saying, I'm reclaiming that. I am out here helping, coaching, and moving by using the voice that was made to be canned, right? Ursula from the Little Mermaid came and stole your voice, and then you took it back, and that's pretty cool.
It is, because I also think, because I am a mental health coach, but what I very, so like before any coaching session or anything like that, I take 5 minutes and like I set the space, I clear the space and set intentions that I want it to be a safe space, people to be able to be vulnerable, feel heard, set a space for people to heal. And I also set the intention for anything that I may not pick up to come through. Like, I just want to be a vessel for healing for them. It's not I'm healing them. I am just something that it works through and comes out. Like, I am them helping them heal themselves. So like, it's a very like, I don't do mediumship, but it's a very mediumship type method of being the translator for healing, opposed to being the motivator, the person who's going to change your life. Like, I'm like, you have all of these tools. I'm just the facilitator of the message in a way that you need, that's going to be best heard by you.
Yep, you're the mirror.
Yep.
Yep.
That's how I feel about that. That is super, super cool. We're coming up on 58 minutes, Kara. So I want to be able to give you a space to, if you have anything you're doing, you're working on, you're getting back into, or anything like that, to be able to almost either promote it, let people know where they can find you or where they can go to support you or anything like that. I want to give you a couple minutes just to let you talk about yourself.
Wonderful. So I've decided to rebrand, remarket. And so for years, it was Relentless Love Cancer Foundation. And I'm migrating that to Relentless Love Foundation, because I want to make sure that anybody with any diagnoses feels free to come and converse on that, as well as anybody else. I obviously do coaching around any sort of mediumship. You come to me if your spirits come through and they want to speak, great. But I'm really great at facilitating communication with you and yourself. I happen to also do working with patients that are in a coma, or special needs patients that are nonverbal, and then trance mediumship, which is super, super fun and always interesting, because that's when spirit gets to have the ability to just speak freely. And so even if people have questions, they're more than welcome to reach out. I'm just about to relaunch my website. I pulled down Relentless Love. We're going to put up Relentless Spirit. So probably in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to reach me there. We do private bookings through my Wix account. And so you can check me out on Instagram, YouTube. My whole story has been logged there. You can see videos from soup to nuts of my walk with cancer. And I absolutely love to have people who are on the cancer teams, like family, friends that need that support, to reach out and just use me as a network to the community, as well as a, I don't like the word specialist, but a specialist to help you navigate your own emotions. And not only do I do, it is obviously a fee scale. I do a sliding scale, and then I also do pro bono for those that are in the situations where obviously cancer bills and healthcare bills in the United States are ridiculous. So I'm here for helping people, not looking at the almighty dollar. So reach out, don't hesitate, and yeah, let's just make this world a better place.
That's awesome. And I've learned that instead of saying specialist, I like to use the words trusted resource.
I like it.
Because you're trusted, you're experienced, and like you're the person, like obviously if I have things that I'm working through as, a supporter of somebody working through cancer treatment and stuff like that, like you're a trusted resource. You're somebody who I would feel comfortable going to, speaking with, and obviously your story is so empowering, and I feel like, there's so much more I want to talk about and ask you and stuff like that. So if you would ever be open to coming back on the podcast, I would love to have you back. But yeah,
absolutely. I would absolutely love that. I actually have another book in the works, and there's a couple of books that I've been mentioned in by a couple of great authors. Anthony Garone, wonderful, wonderful gentleman, spoken about me in a couple of his books, so there'll be some segues to those. Nice. And then I'm releasing a survivor book as well, where if you do have survivor stories, or you're in the middle of your walk with whatever your health adventure is, and you want to, share your story, reach out. My email's on all of my websites, and send me your story, and perhaps you'll be one of the people that go into the books.
Kara, thank you so much. Stay on. When I end this broadcast, we'll still go back into the studio. We'll recap a little bit. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who listened in, everybody who got to hear Kara's story, and make sure to check out her website, her Instagrams, her YouTubes, and all those things. I'll make sure to list them on my stuff as well. And that's another Somebody Like You podcast in the books. And once again, Kara, thank you so much for being a part of it. Your journey is inspiring. You are making such a positive ripple in this world. And I'm just so fortunate to be able to share a bit of that space with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to it the next time. And I'll hang out for the wrap up after this.
Awesome. Sounds good. Everybody, have a wonderful rest of your day. Love you. And if you need anything, make sure you can reach out, and I will take care of it. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great one. Bye-bye.